because in the citizen science world, or from the researcher's perspective, community science is meant to be for research projects that are started by the community. So it's more of like the community, people in the community figure out they have problems in their community, and they want to try to be able to gather data to take it to their policymakers and request for change. So that's how they use the term community science. So it has already pretty set definition to that, so we did not choose to use the term community. So instead, we use neighborhood. And what we found out is neighborhood makes it even more engaging, because people typically think in neighborhood as something that's even smaller in terms of the community, the participation. So it's a lot smaller. And it also creates that sense of belonging, sense of that we're part of this together. So. that is also part of NASA's project. Our goal is to really to get, by having those data collected, to really you don't block enough sound out, so it does impact you in the long term. So they decide to take the matter into their own hands. They need equipment to be able to monitor their air quality. Oh, okay, so I have to use this one? Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's okay. All right, so now I lost the trend of my thought. Okay. Okay, so they take the matter into their own hands, and they realize in order for them to convince the city council to go to the city planner to say, we need to make some changes to our community. We need more trees. We need more sound walls. We need more things. We need to do something with the light pollution, the sound pollution, everything. And also, we need to do something to cool our communities down. They realize they need a lot of data. So they started looking into citizen science, and they collaborate. Their first collaboration was with another local environmental group called Climate Resolve. And so they have someone there who is familiar with citizen science, and they're like, okay, we're gonna need air quality sensor. We're gonna need a couple other equipments for us to be able to collect these data. And when they found out that library actually have the air quality sensor for loan, because these air sensors are not cheap. Even though they're small, they're portable, they're supposed to be affordable. Each one of them is about $250 US dollars. So all those kits that we create, they're not cheap. But they serve a very important purpose for people who are underserved, who don't have the budget to have an access. So when they found we have this, she reached out to me and she said, we are trying to do this project. Is there anything you can help us with? Or we can send our people to go to your branches to check them out. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna create a separate kit for you, and then you can check this out indefinitely to run this project. So we create a kit, give them additional 6 different air sensors so they can do this as a community event on regular basis. So what they would do is they would gather on weekly or bi-weekly basis, do something what they call the climate walk with people in the community, and they would go around different blocks in the neighborhood one time a week, collecting data, so also teach them about the impact of air quality to their health. And they do this all in Spanish. So we realized we're actually able to help. It's just something that makes us realize we need to continue forward with this project. So, and the success story is they did this, now they're expanding this into a separate, another community. The success was that they actually collect enough data, went to present in front of the city council and neighborhood council, and eventually the neighborhood council and city council work with the city planner to back down in terms of change their development plan. So they not only add more sound wall to the freeways, they also were planting more trees. They're working on planting more trees, and then also working on coloring the pavement, which is the asphalt in that community, so it will cool down the city. So it does have that climate action. It does encourage communities to come together to work on the problem that is impacting all of them. The second success story that we have is with our LA BioBlitz Challenge, and this is like very dear to my heart because we started this back during COVID. It was inspired by the City Nature Challenge that started by the Natural History Museum of LA, Los Angeles County. How many of you have heard of City Nature Challenge? I'm wondering. No one? Only one person? Okay, the reason I'm saying this is actually Malaysia participated in the City Nature Challenge. So come this April, they're gonna do it again. So make sure you go and Google it about City Nature Challenge, because it's a challenge globally done, I think right now in at least 120 something countries. And what they do is that in that 1 week, towards the end of April, they encourage all of you to go out and photograph or recording sound of wildlife, okay? Why do I say recording sound? So there will be time that you only hear bird chirping, but you don't see the bird, so you can't really photograph them. But with the iNaturalist app, you can record the sound of the bird chirping, and then someone, what we call the naturalist, or researchers, scientists who already joined the iNaturalist community, they can help you identify the species. And some of you who live in your community, you might already know some of the species existing in your neighborhood, and we probably don't know about. So then you can add your own identification to it, so help other people in the world to know what sort of species existed in Malaysia that we don't know about. So it's a very fun, engaging activity. How many of you use your phone to take pictures? Raise your hand. Great, most of you, right? So now I'm asking you, instead of taking selfies, we're gonna turn that to everywhere that you see. We'll be at a park, even inside your home. You will find bugs, right? Take pictures, share that on iNaturalist, and help, you can help not only researchers and scientists gathering more biodiversity data throughout the world, you also get to learn what kind of bugs live in your house. So for me, since I started doing iNaturalist in 2018, I have found at least 17 different species of spiders inside my house. And the funny thing I found also is they love to crowd out. There's nothing else more that you will find these spiders under the windowsills or your bathtub. So for me, in my bathtub, it's not even a tub, it's a shower tub. It's at the bottom. And almost every other day when I walk into the restroom, I will see a bug there. So it ranges, majority of them are spiders, but you will see moth, all kinds of weird, interesting stuff. So I'm telling you, you can participate in this. You can photograph wildlife anywhere, even inside your home. So do it. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story here. So when we do the LA BioBlitz Challenge, we have a little bit more purpose to it. We have very specific goals. City Nature Challenge has a main focus in engaging everyone doing biodiversity, to learn about your local biodiversity. So they want you to collect all sorts of wildlife data. So that could be plants, that could be fungi, that could be all the wildlife, living organism, basically. for LA, for the LA Bible Challenge, we partner with our city Department of Sanitation and Environment. And they are the one who's doing the biodiversity research. They're doing actually a lot of research for the city, including, I believe, if it's not water, there's a whole bunch of other ones, especially on the waste. Also, they do research on waste. So they're the one who work with us, and they told us what sort of data they need in order to help the city to have a complete biodiversity index report. So we're like, okay, well, I think we can help push this. So we're trying to amplify that effort for them. One second. And then so continue on. We went ahead, we also used that as an opportunity to promote our citizen science kit, especially the Exploring Biodiversity kit. And that way people who needs binoculars, they will have a hands-on, they will get to have that binoculars to go out and look for birds, for things. We also provide, in the kit, you will see that there is a set of the clip-on lenses. They can clip on their cell phones. Same thing, the binoculars can be hooked up to their cell phones so they can take pictures using their cell phone. So again, these photographs serves like the key data points for these projects. So we want to make sure they have access to all the tools that they need in order to collect useful photos. The reason I say useful photos is because we don't want people to think you have to be a professional photographer to take pictures and to upload it. Some of us, we all have different type of phones, and some of the phones don't have that good of a resolution, but it doesn't mean you cannot participate. Also, if you're someone who doesn't have a smart device, you don't have a phone with a camera, you can use regular camera. You can go to their website, you can upload it that way as well. So we're trying to make sure people understand the whole purpose of your photographing the species is to make sure you can photograph the specifics, like maybe the legs, the top, different angles of a plant, so that the researchers, scientists, or any enthusiasts of naturalists, they can go ahead and help identify them. And the whole point is for the city to understand the spread and the presence of different species, particularly what we call the indicator species. The indicator species, when you see them in your neighborhood, what that means is they're the one that tells you the city itself or the community, that area has a very good habitat quality for them to thrive or survive. Meaning there's enough food, enough prey, a shelter for them. And a lot of these indicator species are actually they're threatened right now because in the city of Los Angeles, we're constantly building out, the urban development is fragmenting their habitats. So that makes it difficult for them to be able to find mates, to find food. So a lot of time, slowly, what we found out is a lot of these wildlife are harder and harder to find and to spot them. And we don't know if they're extinct or not. And some of them are also what we call endemic. So people get to learn what are the endemic species are. So we're using this as an opportunity to teach them different type of species, what are the native species. We're looking for specifically what are the indicator species. They're also learning about that. Los Angeles is within one of the remaining 36 global biodiversity hotspot. Malaysia is within one of the 36 global biodiversity hotspot. You guys have abundant, amazingly rich wildlife and biodiversity here. And just like Los Angeles, a lot of them are actually threatened right now because of a human action, because of the urban development, the fragmentation of their habitats, and climate change, of course. So we want people to understand all the impact, everything is connected, and how the local biodiversity has an impact on our own life. Not just because we're sharing a space, but they're also helping us with the food that we have. They're also providing a lot of different things that we need as a human. So we're using this as an opportunity. And it's been very successful. We've been doing it for 3 years. This 2023 is considered the most successful year that we have. It's a 4-week program. We have almost close to 10,000 people participated. Collected very close to about 10,000 observations in a course of 4 weeks. We were still able to identify about 28 out of 38 indicator species that we're looking for, and we've shared that information with all the participants. the next success stories is our collaboration with NASA Globe. So NASA Globe program is a separate program. It started back in the 90s, and GLOBE is actually an acronym, stands for Global Learning and Observation to Benefit the Environment. And this program actually provided us a lot of resources. And when they have these challenges that they post, it's usually globally done, and we were able to participate. So that includes like the tree challenge. So what does tree challenge do? All these things has to do with NASA's own research. We all know that NASA has tons of satellites that's orbiting the planet. So they've already gathered a huge amount of data. Then why would they need us? We are what we call the ground truthing team. So our goal, our role is really to help them validate the data they collected through satellites. So for example, when they collect the data of clouds from, through the satellite, they're looking from top down, right? But is that always accurate? Not necessarily. So they would need people like you and I to look at that same piece of cloud from the bottom up. And then we provide them with the information based on the app called Globe Observer. You go through the questions they have, you answer them, tell them what sort of a cloud that you identify. You also learn about different types of clouds. And then they will go ahead and validate that. And the coolest thing about it is if it matches their satellite data, you're going to receive an email from them to let you know, thank you for submitting your data, and it actually matches our satellite, blah, 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 blah. So you actually feel like you're being acknowledged and your data has been recognized and is useful to their research. They also do tree challenge. Why are they doing trees? For the same reason. When they're looking down from the top, they could see the tree canopy, but they don't necessarily able to gauge the height of the tree. And that plays a huge part in terms of, with the climate change, the study that they're working on. So they want us to help them measure trees. But you're like, I don't even know the tree that's been outside my house for the last 15 years. I don't know how tall that is. I just know it's taller than me. If you have access to the Globe Observer app, it already have the protocols in there, and you just need to follow the protocols, do the measuring, position your phones in certain ways as it asks you to. You can measure that tree that's been standing outside your house for the last 30 years. And finally you will realize how like, it probably is, like 400 meters tall or something. So it's really cool. I did that during COVID, and because I don't really go into the city, I don't want to be near people, so I go into the parks and hiking trails. And when I see a tree, I just do that. And every time I do that, I learn something about the trees. In the meantime, they're getting the data that they need. So you contribute to something bigger. So they also do mosquito habitat mapping. So mosquito is a problem now, not only in the usual, we think, in the lower half of what we call the global south. It's because of global warming, it's spreading drastically. Now you can find them up in the polar region. They're just everywhere now. And I always tell this story. When I first moved to US when I was 11, I was so happy for two reasons. Number one, the weather is perfect. It's dry, it's not as humid hot as I was in Taiwan. Number two, I don't get mosquito bites anymore. There's no mosquitoes. I have a nickname called Little Red Beans, because when I was living in Taiwan for the 11 years, every single day I get bitten by mosquitoes, and it's all over my legs with these red bumps, and they look like red beans. So I had a nickname called Little Red Bean. So. But I was so happy I don't have to deal with that anymore. So, but that things have changed. The last 15, 20 years, because of the traveling, people are able to travel more. From the cargoes, they're transporting these mosquitoes, like the tiger, what did they call it? The tiger mosquitoes, or different names of it. Now you can find them in US. And with the warming of the temperature, they actually can spread a lot faster. And now the mosquito season not only start earlier, they're even longer. So NASA is really trying to track down the spread, the pattern of the mosquito breeding, so that they can prevent, they can help, I guess, the governments the policymakers to basically come up with preventive measures to prevent the outbreak of these mosquito-borne diseases like malaria, dengue, and Zika. So they constantly have these different annual challenges, and you can participate. But in order for you to do that, you do have to become what we call a globe country. So it's a country-to-country collaboration. So right now, currently Malaysia is not one of the globe country. So the reason I'm here is to tell you that with your participation in Globe, not only give you access to tons of data, while you're contributing data, you also have access, all of these data are open access, so anyone can access it. So you just go through the training. They will have to train you how to use these tools. They provide you all the resources you need to teach your students for anyone to be able to participate. And you will have resources to connect it to your curriculum in classrooms. So I'm highly encourage you all to express the interest in become a globe country. So that will be able to push the government to say, hey, we want to be, or your Department of Education say, we want to be part of it. So definitely take a look at their website. It's the www.globe.gov. You can see a slew of resources. There's tons of hands-on activity. If you do STEM programs in the libraries, and you're like, well, I'm looking for something that's more interesting that has to do with climate, whatever, or not even climate, just in general, learning about earth science. They already have things there. They have printed sheets for you to print it out. There's instructions. There's printed sheets people can work on as activities. Tons of fun games too. So definitely take a look, and then you will see the reason why. For us at Los Angeles Public Library, we benefit from it tremendously. And also, they provide us when they run big campaigns like this, it's easy for us to promote together. And they will provide us a lot of what we call the good incentives, from bookmarks to pins to posters to tote bags. We also get like these solar glasses, because right now they're pushing for solar eclipse, because now there's the total eclipse is coming up. It's going to be in the path is going to cross eastern US. So they're really promoting that right now. So they're giving away these solar glasses. I actually have them, but I didn't bring it with me. So you get a lot of really cool stuff from them. And you know how the thing is, when you tell people this is part of the NASA program, people are very interested globally. When we put the NASA logos out there, people are like, oh, it's NASA. They don't even know what I'm doing, but they see NASA, they just coming in. So it's a good way to, engage people. You might say, well, because they like NASA, that's why they're self-selected, participants. But not necessarily, because they don't really know the content. All they know is NASA, and they all think NASA only do space science. They only send astronauts out. They only build rovers, space shuttles, and things like that. That's not true. They do a lot of study about our planet. And this would be the perfect way for you all to have access to those data from the different satellites. You have access to their subject matter experts that they can do online program with you. You can set up things like this, do a Zoom, and they can talk to your people, to your participants, okay? When we build the kits, we also consider these 3 key things, and they're huge right now in US and globally. You consider about diversity, you consider about equity, you consider about inclusion. So one of the biggest challenge with citizen science project is most of the citizen science project right now, they're created and pretty much launched in the United States. So their majority of them are also all in English. So you have to kind of figure out, if I'm going to promote this to different community who speak different languages, what do I need to do? So when we partner with NASA, they send us these collaterals, like the activity sheets and stuff. We would take the initiative to translate them into different languages. City of Los Angeles is a very diverse city. We have Filipino town, we have Koreatown, we have Japanese, Little Tokyo, Japanese town, we have Chinatown. We have all people coming from all different countries. So we are trying to make sure that they know about these events, knowing about these projects. So we would translate them into many different languages. We're one of the really lucky library system that, because the nature of our community is in so many different languages, we have also librarians who can speak different languages. Like myself, I speak and write Chinese, so I help with Chinese translation. We have people who speak Tagalog from Philippines, so they can translate into Tagalog. We have people who can translate in Russian, Spanish, Japanese, Korean, all different languages, and Arabic. So if you're creating a kit, if you are trying to reach different communities, it's really important you consider a few things. Not, language is one, but also their cultural, the cultural aspect of it. What we found out is not every single community, especially from the cultural aspect, some of them are not really into science, and some of them simply don't trust science. So how you want your kid to be able to bridge that is something for you to consider. So we're going to go through the steps. So I call it Building 101 because this is basically the same process I had gone through myself when I was creating these kits. And I was more fortunate than most other people just because I was able to connect with some really cool partners like SciStarter, for instance. NASA Globe also provided me a lot of ideas and resources. And they even helped me with reviewing the instructions and everything. Why? Because I forgot to mention this. I don't have a science degree. I'm not a scientist. I mean, now I can call myself citizen scientist because I do citizen science, but I don't have STEM backgrounds. My undergrad was business and economics. And then after I graduated, I worked in a computer networking company for 6 years. And then I realized I love sharing knowledge, so I go back and got my librarian degree. So look through all that. And I grew up hating math and science. I'm not gonna lie, it's just, my dad is great with science and math, but I guess I got my mom's gene. My mom's really bad with science and math. So growing up, really don't like them. And having that opportunity working as a librarian to put up STEM programs, citizen science programs, really changed me. And I think the fact that I didn't like math and science helped me to think about how do I pivot my programs to make people like them. And I sort of use myself as a measuring tape or something, like a measuring gauger to think that if I like this, I think people will like it. And it actually works. So my message is, if you don't like math and science like me and you don't have a science degree, don't run away from it. You can learn along with your participants, and you can tell them. I always tell them, I said, first of all, as soon as you walk in that door, I'm letting you know I'm not a scientist. I don't work for NASA, and probably never will. And I don't have all that, knowledge, but I know where to find things. I know where to find resources, and I can share that with you, and I'm actually learning with you. And I would tell them straight ahead, I said, I might be making mistakes when we're doing experiments, and you're gonna see that because I'm doing demonstration. But I said, if you can point it out, that means you're smarter than me. So, and they usually, they will laugh, and I think that relaxes a lot of people, get more people interested in wanting to try science. So that's also another way. If your country, your government, this is a global thing now. Everybody want to push, our younger generation to be in the STEM field. So this is one way to encourage them. And library is a perfect place. Why? It's a trusted place. It's a safe place. It's a place that you walk in there, nobody's going to judge you. You can check out any kind of books you want. Nobody's going to say, oh, you're reading that book, right? And no one's going to say, you can't check that book out. Or, you walk in, you try to learn something, and people are going to look at you like, how come you don't know this? Librarians are trained to be very objective. We're trained to let people know that anyone can walk through that door, and we have resources, and I can tell you where they're at. Not that I know the subject. For example, if you ask me, what are the eviction laws in LA? I don't know, but I know where the books are. So I can refer you the books, I can show the databases, right? So that's why library is important in the citizen science world. You can play a huge part in terms of in the open science movement, in the maker movement, because you can provide maker spaces. You can play a huge part in citizen science movement because people will come into the library knowing that they're gonna learn something, and nobody's gonna say, oh, you got a big F, you failed. You can fail safely in the library. So that's the reason why we should get involved, okay? So when you're creating the kits, you have to ask some questions. Questions for yourself or question of the team that you formed to help you build these kits. So these are the questions that we came across and that I was constantly thinking about. So number one is you really need to know the demographics of your community. What language do they speak? What sort of heritage they have? Even religion plays a part, right? And how do they, what do they do for fun? You have these people, they come into the library, you can also sort of gauge based on the type of books that they check out, their interests too. So always, your librarians, your library staff, clerks are also good source for you to ask questions as well. The next question is, what does your community care or concern about? That helps you to understand, are they experiencing any health problems? Does those patrons walking through that doors that you see regularly asking you, telling you, oh, when you say, hey, how are you? They probably will tell you, oh, I've been sick. Or they start chatting with you. These are all good ways to learn about what they're experiencing, what they're encountering. And then some of them might be telling you, oh, there's this weird gas leak the last 2 weeks around my neighborhood. That actually happened in the Porter Ranch area in LA. And at first they had no idea why they were smelling this weird gas. Of course, later it turns out it was a gas leak coming from the pipe from the gas company. And it turned out, of course, it spilled into a huge lawsuit later. But, these are the things that you can learn. And then you need to know what they're concerning about, what they care about, in order for you to pivot and pick out what sort of citizen science project you want to introduce to your community. Who are the audience? Are you trying to engage families, adults, children, teens? Who are you targeting? Who would be the people you think would benefit from using these kits? In general, we are thinking be as generic as possible, right? Everybody can use them, but you should have a target group. It's easier for you to do promotions. It's also easier for you to create the kit in terms of the curriculums, the talking points, and everything. And then, of course, then you can expand that to different age groups later. So for the next, what project would your community be interested or benefit from participating? So when they're going through that data collection, interpretation, will they be able to learn something that they can take it back and say, oh my God, I just realized now I know why I have asthma, because we have this factory over here that's spewing this gas all the time, this smoke. So are they going to be able to learn something from that? So these are all good things for you to think about. Now, the next step is, once you know what your community is concerned about, you kind of already have an idea what sort of project that you want, you need to start look for local resources and partners. Partnership plays a very huge part for us, because most of us librarians don't have science degree. We don't have STEM degrees. We don't have anything. Probably don't even work in that, never worked in that field. And for me, I don't even like math and science, so I need to find someone who like them. So you need to start expanding that, looking into partnerships. And so number one is, for us, you can look into other local, other government agencies, other departments in the city. So for me, I look into the sanitation and environment, and which is LA Sanitation and Environment. And we also work with the DWP for the water and power. And then you can look into park rangers or national parks. These are all good partners that you can look into. Local, formal, informal educational institutions or programs. For us, we have several different universities. So if you're already a university, you can tap other universities and say, hey, we're interested in doing this. Do you want to be part of it? So do that with, or local schools, or any after-school programs that that existed in your community. The next one would be the unique and local expertise, the subject matter experts. For example, if you're interested in teaching people about the soil health. Like right now in LA, we have this Healthy Soil Initiative. We try to get more people to understand the importance of soil. So I have to look into master gardeners in our community. So we would tap community gardens, and they will introduce us to different gardeners that we will be able to work with. And then they can come and do programs for us, do a talk and everything. All right? And then recreational organizations, outdoor clubs, hiking clubs, amateur astronomy clubs. Why astronomy club? Well, they have everything to do with light pollution. LA has one of the worst light pollution in the world. I mean, it looks pretty when your plane is, landing. You're like, wow, I see all these beautiful lights. Or, it would make a perfect date night, right? You go and, go to see some night lights. But most of us probably have, at least for me, I'm missing seeing stars in the night sky. I think that's more romantic than looking at the city lights, honestly. Okay, so, that's why we're pushing people. We're reaching out to the astronomy club, because they can send, tell people that we want to go out and stargazing, but we can't see any of the stars now because of all these light pollutions going on. You know, same thing for Las Vegas in Nevada. People know that as a city that never sleeps because the lights emits the entire night. And people have no idea these lights have not only impact on our health, but also local wildlife. You know, we're changing their patterns. They're flying into the lights to try to land things. You know, they're hitting the walls because our lights were going around. So these are all good ways to, you know, you're building the partnership and you're also letting them know why we were partnering with you. We're trying to pushing this project for educational purposes. Now you need to think about the characteristic of your kids. For most of us, you all have like really nice university public library or public library here. For us in the city of Los Angeles, we have 73 locations. Some of our libraries are small. They're old buildings from the 60s, 70s, and they don't have a lot of space, shelving spaces, storage spaces. So we need to think about all these things when we try to create a kit. Is it gonna take a lot of shelf spaces? Is it going to be a lot of problems to them? So these are the things that that first came to our minds. You need to consider flexibility. Is it flexible for you to expand that kit or make it smaller? Is it usable? Meaning that people who check them out is able to really understand and use them. Is it scalable? If someone's really interested and thinking, well, you should add additional things to it to make it more fun, more engaging, is it possible? Can you do it? You need to consider that. Portability. Am I gonna give them a big giant tub for them to go out with a telescope and everything? How difficult would that be for them to carry? And what about people who don't have a car? Are they gonna be able to transport that box? So these are all things you have to consider. So for me, I think as someone who travels a lot and I wanna do travel citizen science, I want something as small as I can to stuff it in my luggage, right? So that's the mentality, that's the thought I have. Now, sustainability. Is it easy to sustain? Do I need to replace a lot of things in there all the time? Is there a lot of what we call consumables that I have to keep on replenish them? Because replenishing not only costs more, you know, you have to spend more money on it, also it takes more manpower to replenish them. That means all of your staff, they have to learn about it, and when it comes in, they all have to go through stuff and try to replenish them. So you have to consider that as well. Now, storage and maintenance. Do you have place to store them? You know, like I said, some of our libraries are so small, we only have a couple shelf spaces. And if I'm giving them like 7 huge boxes, where are they gonna put them, right? Now, what about maintenance? All these equipments I gave it to you, what if they need recalibrations? What if they need cleaning? What sort of solution they need? All the stuff like that, you know, how complicated would that be? And then also, for the kids, I want them to go out, right? I don't want them to be sitting on a shelf collecting dust. So I need to consider how am I gonna be able to push those kids out in terms of to engage that continued participation. So the kids goes out frequent enough that it doesn't sit on your shelf. The bottom line is really keep it simple and flexible. That's the thing you have to think about. Keep it simple, make it flexible. Meaning that flexible, you can add things, you can take things out, and it still functions. If a teacher want to check out, they don't have to go through like 9,000 different tutorials in order to learn how to use that kit. So again, keep it simple and flexible. Now, we need to, you're thinking about the kits already, so you need to figure out what are the citizen science projects that will work well with that kit. So at this point, you already decide what topics you want to include, because these are the topics your community is concerned about. So for us, for instance, we choose light pollution, for instance, or air quality. Then I have to think about what citizen science project I want to use. And if you go to SciStarter, there's more than 4,000 citizen science projects in there. Are you gonna have time to actually go through 4,000 projects? Probably not. I don't. So you need to already have some thoughts. So of course you can keyword like, okay, I'm looking for air quality. Then you're gonna probably pull out a list of them. Then you need to compare them to this deciding factors that I put together. So number 1, access. Is it only existed on phone apps, smart device apps, or people can access it through websites? Why? Not everybody has smart device. Not everyone has cell phone. Especially, even in the city of Los Angeles, we have people who have no cell phone at all. So, and they don't have internet access. So how are they gonna be able to participate if they don't have this? But if you have a website, they can collect the data manually on paper, coming into the library using the internet and upload data, correct? So you need to think about that as well. And then again, technology requirement. People who have technology, and what about people who don't? How are they gonna be able to do this? Ease of use. Do they have to go through professional training, like sitting there for 8 hours to be trained on how to use this tool? Or is something they already have these video tutorials that's only a minute or two that can walk them through quickly, and people can intuitively just pick it up? Registration process. Most of the citizen science project has age limitation, restriction. You have to be 13 and above to register an account. That requires you to give it at least an email address. You can make a fake name, that's fine, fake all other information, but it does require an email address. And when you work with schools, especially for us working with LA Unified School District, they're really protective of these students' privacy. So I can make them, I can bring in cell phones that, okay, all the students in the classroom, 25 of them, please register your email. They're not gonna do it. So how am I gonna get around that? That's another thing you have to think about. The cost, of course, like I mentioned, the air sensor itself is $250. And that's not including the wireless, the digital microscope I put in there, so people can see all the particulate that are collected from the air. So you need to consider costs like, okay, if I'm picking this project, am I gonna have to spend a lot of money to buy equipment for people to participate? Or I can just simply use phones, or something they could just observe with a simple simple clip-on microscope, which is a lot cheaper than a digital microscope, things like that. Is it relevant? Also, the consumables, as I mentioned earlier, is there a lot of things you have to constantly replace them? You know, paper's easy, but what if it's the solutions, right? Some of these liquids and stuff, do I have to keep on adding alcohols in there? You know, a lot of stuff that you need to consider, and do I need to have a cleaning solution for all the stuff separately? And if you include activities in there, does the activity requires you to use some specialized stuff? You know, like you have to get some specialized type of scissors or things like that, or special peripherals. Next one is relevant to community. Make sure your kit is relevant to the community. Something that they can connect personally. Because if you gave them a kit, for example, if you have people who live in the inner city, they're not close to the ocean, and you said, we are going to do something about marine life, and that requires them to have access to the ocean to collect data, you think they're gonna have time to do that? Probably not. Do they wanna check that out? Maybe when they're on vacation, but it's not gonna be often. So it's better something that has that immediate connection with the community, with the people. So number one, people are always concerned about their health. So anything that ties to health is always a good starting point. Anything that ties to the environment that, you know, that they're aware of, like, you know, like overloading of trash, for instance, things like that, or food waste, or things like that, people are thinking about, then those are the good projects that you can consider. And really, don't reinvent the wheel. The reason I said don't reinvent the wheel is because if you participate in SciStarter, you become one of the SciStarters, you join the SciStarters library network, for instance. They already have a lot of resources you don't have to recreate. They even give you a list of things you need to have to create a kit. So you already have something to start with. You don't have to go back and really think, you know, from scratch like I did back in 2018 when there was no such thing. You can reach out to people who already have the similar kit. Like right now, I have these kits I'm sharing with some of you, and you said, well, Vivienne, we're interested, what do I need? I can share the vendor list with you, tell you where to buy them. I can tell you what I have in there, how much they cost, so you can easily, without wasting your time to figure out the cost, you can say, okay, that's too expensive for us, we're not gonna do this, right? You can do that. So these are all important ones. So this is an example of the apps and website that we selected. So again, we use SciStarter because SciStarter already have a lot of project in there, and they also have the kits and, you know, information. So we use that as a starting point for our instructions that we included in the kit. We also select the websites or the data. The project we select is Globe at Night, Globe Observer, iNaturalist, M-Water Surveyor, and Air Casting. So air casting is the one that ties to the air sensors. And you guys will all have the slide deck with speaker notes in there. So you don't even have to, you'll have everything that I talked about. When we create the kit, we also have two directions. One is we want the general public to check them out. So we have one that's like what we call the circulating kit that sits on the shelf. People can check them out. We also have something we call a facilitator's kit. These are catering to teachers, so informal educators or classroom teachers. What we did is in those kits, they would have some important different components in there. But how do you decide the kit content? So you need to make sure there's data collection instruction packets, there's data sheets, people can fill them in manually. For people who don't have internet access, don't have a device. You want to include a hands-on STEM activity to do why? To not only to engage them, to make it fun, but also it serves the purpose to explain the science behind that particular topic you're trying to highlight. And of course, then you want to include instructions and supplies for them to do that activity. You want to make sure you have the sample collection and observation tools from plastic tubes to like microscope and all this stuff. Observation journal, very important. You want your users, people who check them out, to be able to share their experience. So you put in the journal in there, encourage them to write about it. They could give you feedback about what's not so good about the kit, which is perfect for me because then I can make improvement. Or they can share with other people where they went, what they saw, and what sort of the tool that they have, and what maybe some of the tool they can bring on their own. The reason that when we first created the biodiversity kit, there was not a binocular. All we had was the clip-on for the cell phones, the clip-on lenses for cell phones, because we're like, oh, everybody's going to use cell phones, just clip it on, they don't need anything else. Then people said, it would be nice if you have a binocular, because I'm trying to look somewhere far, and I don't necessarily want to take picture. So we're like, well, that's great, because I'm going to include this, and they could, you can check this out as a hiking kit. You go on traveling, it would be something useful for fun as well as gathering data. Keep the consumable items and supplies to the minimum. It's easier on your staff, easier on the user as well. Because when you have to have them participate in an activity that requires them to do a lot of different things, putting all these different supplies together, they probably don't have that time as well. So keep it simple. So as I mentioned, the facilitator kit is slightly different from the circulating kit. We use it specifically for in-branch programs or school community outreach programs. And these kits would typically contain 12 compact loanable kits circulating sets. So librarian can take that bin with you to go to the classrooms and then go over the activities with the kids in the classroom. And if the teachers check them out, teachers can have students, maybe 12 of them, said, hey, for this week, this 12 students going to check them out, and they can collect data around their home. So you won't just have data coming from the classrooms or from school. They can do it in their own neighborhood. And it actually makes it fun because that will give them a chance to connect with their own communities, walk around knowing what things are, be more observant. Yes, so I'm going to pass the kits around so you guys can see what's in the kit. So that will keep you busy as well and while you're listening. And so you don't fall asleep on me. All right. And then, so these kits, when the teachers or librarians take it out to do outreach programs, we typically have them check out using this facilitator bin is specifically for that purpose. So we told the librarian that if there are other people who's interested, who's not attending of these programs, who's not at the outreach, but they want to try this, they can go back to the library and check out the circulating kit. That way we can make sure we don't lose things. And again, to engage educators, we contracted a curriculum specialist to help us create curriculums around this so teacher can easily adapt this into their curriculum using the classroom. So what does it come with? It comes with a short video that helps explain the science of the topic. And it also has slide deck that if the teacher wanted to choose to use slide deck to explain that with their own voice, they could do that. And then at the end there is a printable activity sheet or a printable instruction sheet that they can do activities on. So you can find this on our website. It's lapl.org/NASI. I will be adding that to when I send the slide deck out, all the resources, the website I mentioned will be in there. So the circulating kit has the key primary purpose of it is really for us to engage any patrons. The patrons to learn about these locally relevant environmental concerns and able to conduct observations at their own pace. Not everyone's gonna walk through that door and attend your programs. And some of them don't even have time to do that. But they might have an interest in these topics, so they probably wanna spend time, do this at their own pace, so then they can do it. You know, they can go through stuff slowly or quickly. What about cataloging these and circulating these kits? So since we've already cataloged stuff, we already have the MARC records. So the MARC records already existed in the OCLC system, for instance. So you can just pull that out and just replicate that. So now, because we already created some of the libraries in the States that sometimes they were asking us, oh, do you already have a MARC record? If you're in the cataloging, you will know what MARC record is. So they would ask us, do you have it, something like that you can share with, so we don't have to redo it from scratch. So we would share that. So that's already existed in OCLC and all that. So you will be able to find them. And when we do circulation, you have to consider your circulation policy. So in general, for us, the book checkup, the loan period for us is 3 weeks. So we're trying to keep it the same. When we first started this, we do 2 weeks. We were thinking maybe it will get circulated more often, but later on we figured it's harder for people to remember that. So we want to keep it standardized, so we changed it to 3 weeks. Borrowing agreements, also replacement. As I mentioned, some of these kits, like the air sensor kit itself, just itself alone is over $300 US dollars. So if people lost them, are we going to charge them? If I'm going to charge them $300, you think they're going to want to check that kit out? I wouldn't. So we had to work with our foundation, we had to work with our funders, and we try to figure out what's the best way to do this. So at this point, what we did is we set all the kits at the replacement cost of $50 US dollars, rather than $300, $400, $500, the actual cost. Because our goal is to get people to check them out and really use them. Now, what if they only lost an eraser in the kit? Do I have to pay for all $50? No. So what we have to do is we create a guideline for our librarians telling them that for each kit, for example, for air sensor, if they lost the air sensor, yes, you pay $50. But if you lost the eraser, you don't have to pay anything. So we have that sort of a list for librarians so they can go back to it and then check if somebody returns something that's missing. Also, you want to think about, do you want people to be able to renew them? Because you only have one, for us, each branch that participated, they only have one kit of each topic. So if you let people renew them, that means the same person get to use it a second time for another 3 weeks. But what about someone else who's going to waiting for it? Are you going to, are you going to just wait for that person, tell that person to wait? Or you want to keep it simple, just no renewal, everybody get to try it. So you can think about that. Now, maintenance pack. So we have pre-created a lot like flyer shells. Like you see all these kits have a cover card in the front with the contents and then also the instructions. So we have all those available in PDF. So in case if they get lost, we have it saved in a USB drive. And then so librarians can plug it in and print a copy, laminate it themselves, and stick it back in. Instead of waiting for me to provide another set, which is, for us, the delivery takes about 1 to 2 days. Right? But you don't want to do that. So the more maintenance stuff that you can provide for them to replenish right away, the better. Also, in that kit, you will have additional supplies to replenish the consumables, like batteries, for instance, that gets used. And you want to make sure you highlight that asking people to recycle the battery. So in our kits, some of the kit, like the light pollution, that has a sky quality meter that has a battery in there. We want people to make sure that if that battery runs out, you're going to send it back to us so we can recycle. So we also have a little pouch, say, put your empty or used battery in this pouch, and when it returns, we put it in our recycle bin. So these are stuff, you want to make sure your kit is sustainable environmentally as well. So you probably think, well, you laminated all those in plastic, and they're not sustainable. But the reason we laminate is so they last longer, right? I don't have to keep on reprinting them, waste paper, and then reclip them. And also the instruction sheet on the back, we include a Sharpie with an eraser. Why Sharpie and eraser? We found out if you use a Sharpie, you write on it, that eraser actually can erase the data. So you can keep on reusing that card until it literally worn out, right? So that's another way for you to think how to be sustainable. Initially, it is not sustainable because it's plastic. But if it's well used, it's worth that investment. And some of the tools that you will need to maintain the electronic equipment. For instance, for the water quality, we have the TDS meter in there. It requires 4 those coin batteries in there. Now, in order for you to get those coin batteries out, you need a screwdriver. Not every branch is going to have a screwdriver, and let alone it's a mini screwdriver. So we will make sure we provide those screwdrivers and those tools in the kit from the in the maintenance pack, so they will be able to use that to open it up and replace the battery. Calibration solutions. In the water quality kit, there is a orange-white box of solution. That's for recalibration. So we make sure that we send that out so they know how to recalibrate that TDS meter with instructions. Now, people's gonna say, well, you're lucky you have budget, right? You have funds, you have grants. And I admit we're really lucky. You know, when that's the benefit of being the first one who's trying this. Every single library association or the institution we reach out, when we tell them we want to do this, we send in a proposal. They were like, wow, we didn't even think about this. And they wanted to know how it turns out. So they're willing to give us money. So with California Library Association, we got 2 rounds of funding, total up to about $200,000 US dollar. So we were able to use that to make the initial purchase. And then, again, being that initial, also easy for you to find partners. So we've been partnering with NASA, with EPA, because we were one of the first. And they are very interested in terms of how did we think about the library can be a vehicle to help them educate the public about the topics that they're research on. So, and they also want to see if we actually can be successful with it. So they're like, you know what, I'm going to give you all the resources. I'm going to give you everything you're asking for, subject matter, everything. And then we were going to see if you can run it. And we were fortunate, we're fairly successful, and now our foundation is helping us getting more funding so we can continue to sustain. But in general, most of the kit, it's already self-sustainable if it lasts a certain period of time, that we don't actually have to keep on adding things to it. The only thing that we're trying to grow right now is we only have 35 out of 73 locations of our library system that have these kits. And we have people in the communities that have a library, but they don't have the kits. And so our goal is to make sure we can expand this to the next 35, the other 35 libraries. So that's when we will be spending more money in getting these kits out. So here's a very important things that you should do is to join this network. As a library, this network is specifically for librarians, for libraries. It's actually started by SciStarter, and it's their National Citizen and Community Science Library Network. They're growing this so they're sharing their resources with you. And the founder of this organization, SciStarter, Darlene Cavalier, she's wholehearted into promoting citizen science. Yes? The safety issue? Yes. Not with these, no. So you do, because we've self-tested most of these things, and so there's not really like a safety concern, because there's no knives in there. There's nothing that will harm themselves. But like I was telling you, the only thing we were concerning is liability. So with water quality, that is a concern. We don't want people to think, oh, I'm using your testing strip in there, and I think there's lead in my water, and they start panicking. So lead contamination is huge in LA. So that has to do with safety.
And then so the way that we promote is we said, this is the basic. It's preliminary. If you do suspect that you have lead in your water, who will be the organization you need to contact so they can do further investigation for you, okay? But in general, our kits, we try to keep it as safe as possible. In the instruction, the first page, we do tell them, you need to, all the safety rules. For example, make sure you wash your hands. If you're out there on your own, watch for traffic. If you're out there nighttime to stargaze, to do the light pollution, be aware of your surroundings. You want to make sure these are communicated. And then, if you look at the first page, after the cover, there's a safety rule. And then those are the things that we constantly emphasize whether we're doing programs or when people check out, it's already there. They will be able to see it. Okay? And that, I don't think we've actually had to check with like city attorneys in terms of like, oh, we're doing this, would this be a problem? Because in general, if you look at these kids, none of them really would spark that kind of concern. Yeah, so, but again, every country is slightly different, so you might want to, make sure you check that. So again, going back to this Science Starters National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, I highly recommend all of you, especially if you have not started the Citizen Science Project and you're interested, make sure you participate. Why? They have resources. They already have tutorials. They have webinars. They have already lists of kits that you can go ahead and look through it and see if that's something that's relevant to your community, and you can know the cost and everything and maybe get a kit. From time to time, I know back then they got a grant that they were able to provide a few kits to some of the libraries for you to start. So again, if you don't have funding, these type of partnership, join this network would be very beneficial to you. And I know it says national, but it is really global. So I will make sure that they are aware they need to change that term. So again, the purpose of that network is really to build that community, get librarians together to be able to have a place to communicate, to be able to support each other, and then of course to broaden that participation in citizen science and really help accelerate research. So I was telling you, Science Starters have their own kit building guide. So if you join the network, and actually you just go to their website, you already can find things like this. They have supply lists, free downloadable kit activity guides, kit labels, bookmarks, rack cards, like you want to put it on shelves and stuff, flyers, and more. They also have general promotional resources that's available. And doesn't matter where you're at. If you want to promote your event, you can also put it on SciStar's website. They will help you to promote. Now we're going to talk a little bit about marketing and promotion. That's actually one of the toughest one for us, because people don't see library ties with science unless you're a science library, right? You're academic science, you're a science library. So when you go out and say, hey, we're offering science programs, STEM programs, they're like, really? When? And what kind of science program? So you're out there, you actually try to make sure people are aware of this. So initially, to communicate that has its own little challenge. But this is what these are the questions that we kind of come up with when we try to do the promotion. So number one is, who can we reach out to increase participation and engage intended audiences? And how to connect the project to our existing programs and services, so they don't feel like it's easier for you to, when you integrate to something that's already existed, for example, like story times, and you say, hey, let's do a science activity at the end of this. They're not going to run away from it. They're not going to give you that frown like, what are you talking about, right? It's already kind of seamlessly tied in, so it's more easy for them, easier for you to engage them, and easier for you to market too. How to assess the success in collecting feedback. You can engage, from people's responses or doing surveys. Do you have existing promotional channels? Do you use Instagram, use social media? Do you have community groups that you already work with schools? How do the community benefit from participating in these projects? You need to highlight that. So when you promote, that's in there. that they know where they're coming from, what they're coming for. Who can we reach out for promotions? If you already have some established promotional channels, but can someone else help you? Maybe it could be the local news group or local newspaper, people who's publishing their own personal blogs that concerned about community events, community stuff. You can reach out to those people, or local restaurants, local businesses. Most importantly, how do you want to market and make it fun? How do you want to make sure people coming in and not thinking about, oh, I'm going to come in to learn about climate change, and it's such a heavy, heavy topic. How do you make it fun? So key, again, is you want to make your program, make people think can link citizen science to the word fun. That's really important. So here's just some examples I'm showing you. So we did some displays in our library. So these are some of them. So the one on your left is how we did a display of the kits. So our librarians come up with using one of the boards at the bottom of the circulation counter. This is actually a reference desk, I think, to highlight stuff, the type of kits we have, and then demo the actual kits in the front, display them, and we also create this huge poster for them to engage people. When we were doing the air quality, working with EPA to promote California Clean Air Day, we actually was promoting our air quality sensor. So we got a lot of supplies like resources, freebies, and flyers, everything coming from EPA, and also coloring books for kids to use to do drawings on, storybooks. We gave those away, so we were able to do those displays. So again, when you reach out, you have your partners. They might already have promotional materials that you can use. So you don't have to go back and recreate your flyers. You don't have to think about, oh, I gotta go buy stuff to give away. They might have giveaways that you can give away. So again, you wanna make sure we don't require librarians to do programming to promote these citizen science kits. Because not every librarian is gonna have time to do that. Okay, their focus is to keep the library open and answering reference questions and keep the daily operation going. But you do want to highlight the benefit of having programming. It makes it easier for people to know you have these kits and what's the purpose of it. And when they go through those hands-on activities, doing the STEM science experiment, they can learn it faster. And then it would be something that would stay with them instead of you just, here is a kit, go try it out, right? So one thing we did is we make sure our program can leveraging these existing environmental days or campaigns. So these are the few that we highlighted that we will constantly look into. And then like Clean Air Day, there's a lot of these days actually started by United Nations. So if you go to UN, you will see all those different dates. And of course, if you look and you Google it, every day in the 365 days is some kind of day. There's like National Donut Day. There's, I don't know, there's all kind of like National Chocolate Day or Global Chocolate Day. I mean, people, when it's food, everybody gets excited. So that's those one that caught my eye. And then that's how we realized there's a lot of these different days too. And I know when you look at citizen science app, you probably think, oh, they're all like collecting data. They're all like, oh, we have to key in these information like the temperature, degrees and whatever, all this stuff. Yeah, those are one type of citizen science app or citizen science project. But there's a gamified version of citizen science projects. So these are the one that I listed for. We also do them as, when it's gamified as a video game, you can easily pivot that into a game challenge in your branch. So number one, the first one is NASA NemoNet. That is a citizen science project created by NASA to ask all of us to help them classify all the coral reefs, coral data they have collected over I don't know how many decades. So from their satellites and stuff, underwater devices and stuff. So what they're asking us to do is if you download that app, it's actually fun and it does not require you to register, I believe. And even a preschoolers can do it because it asks you to color the coral on screen on that image. And they want you to help them identify, basically by coloring the image, the part of the image that is a coral versus the part of the image that is not coral. So when I shared this with my 5-year-old nephew, who is now 12, he spent the entire day sitting there coloring, going through tons of the coral data, more than I did. And he was having a lot of fun. He was just doing all the coloring. And then along the way, you're learning different types of coral because they have those information in there. So it was really, really interesting. So, and then you can talk to them about coral bleaching, how that ties into global warming, how, what that has to do with climate change. And, so when you do this as a classroom activity or doing it as a library activity, it can go really far. But you can start with something fun as a game challenge, right? Stallcatcher is a web app, and that is the one that you get everyone involved. It's actually tied into an Alzheimer's research. So what the hypothesis was, they believe the progression of Alzheimer's has to do with the stall of our blood vessels in the brain. So you're going to look at a whole bunch of these images of blood vessels of a mice's brain. And then you're going to go in there and circle out all the blood vessel stalls. And then the more you do it, the more events you do. And then when you go through that, you're actually helping, again, the research group to do the identification, validation, stuff like that. So you're helping them with the process. So you're not just collecting data. At this point, you're doing more like a classification interpretation. So that's another type of collaboration in terms of citizen science you're doing. And we also did that as a challenge. I think it was 2019, SciStarter has the Stallcatcher as a Citizen Science Day challenge. So it was like nationwide. And LA Public Library was like, we ranked #1 because we have the people who did the most submission identified the most of the blood vessel stalls. So it's really fun. You can do this as a timed challenge in your library program. So for example, you have all these teens coming in and you have iPads set up. And you have Wi-Fi already connected in your library, so they don't have to worry about it. And all you need to do is say, we're going to time this for 5 minutes, and we'll see who has the most, who identify most of the stalls. You're the winner, and you can go away with the incentive or something, or get a certificate, right? So these are all simplified version of citizen science program you can do. The rest of them, Play for the Planet, Earth Game, the Climate Trail, and Walden. These are all actual games that has to do with teaching people about environmental education, environmental literacy. So they're not pertains to citizen science project, but it works as a good entry point to get people interested because they're playing a game. And then they're learning about climate change, learning about climate issues along the way. So the one I like the most, I encourage all of you to check out, is the Climate Trail. It works kind of like the video game, like the survival one. So you have to go in, and they said the world is pretty much doomed at that point, and you try to survive. So you're going from the southern part of the States, you're going up, you're trying to reach Canada to survive. So along the way, you see all sorts of different climate disasters. And you're out of water, you're doing this, that. So how are you going to survive? So you have to choose things to look for food and all that. It's like a survival game. It's really fun. So I highly encourage you guys to try that one, especially if you're gamers. All right. I think that comes to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vivienne, for the wonderful talk. So for now, I would like to invite Madam Rashida Tajurahim, Head of Dar al-Hikmah Library, IIUM Kuantan, accompanied by Ms. Nurshi Shahida Shamsuddin, Program Manager, Nurturing Citizen Science, Libraries Empowering Communities, to present our token of appreciation to Ms. Vivienne. Thank you, Madam Rashida. Thank you, Ms. Nurshi, and thank you, Ms. Vivienne. Now, can we have a quick photo session with all the participants before we continue on? So if everyone can please stand up and just group together so we can take a big photo. Okay.
Boleh.
Oh, okay. Forgive me. Everyone, please sit down for the photo session. We can't see you when you stand, so please sit down. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone. And before we pause for a break, I would like to call upon Madam Farah Wahida to continue with the next session. Okay.
Alright, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum. Okay ke semua? Okay so kita sikit lagi untuk kita share. We would like to share about, itulah kadang-kadang lupa ada sahabat daripada Los Angeles tu nak cakap, kena cakap orang putih Okay, boleh faham lagi ya? Okay, saya nak dengar sikit lah. Kita nak kena bagi refresh sikit. Boleh angkat tangan kanan? Okay, buat macam ni sikit. Alright. Tangan kiri. Okay, kat depan. Alright, bawah. Okay, tarik nafas in. Banyak sedap, banyak sedut. Sign. Habislah, aku lepas ni aku nak jadi apa deh? Kerja library tapi nak buat sign semua. No, this is something new that is really good for us to explore. Okay? I know that it might be that when I talking something like this, people will say like, you can say about it because this is your study. Yeah, for information, this is my topic for my PhD about citizen science. I'm doing about citizen science in library context. But there is none library in Malaysia doing about citizen science yet. However, there is quite of numbers of university or higher education institution doing citizen science in their university but not involve the library. When I'm asking the researcher, for my primary interview, right? Why you are not involved library? Why library? You have a collection of book. Potong mood terus rasa. Macam, alah, come on lah, takkan fikir buku je kita ni. But that's the mentality. That's why we as a library, we cannot blame the researcher to think like that about us if we are represent like that. When we would like to do something new, we would like, this is not my job. To the end of the day, tak relevan library, tak ada kerja, semua menangis, mengatap je lah. Tak boleh lah. Sebab itu, this is one of the opportunity for us to explore. It's not a burden of our work. It's extended only. We already do STEM, right? Public library, I do believe you did a lot of project or activities in STAM, right? So do us. Alright, but then extended from that, it's just a CS, the short form of citizen science is CS. It's just like what we did actually, but it's extended from that only. So some opinion will say that citizen science is a cosmetic word only. Okay, you can say that, whatever that you want to say, but do it. That's it. Just do it. So one of the opportunity or one of the chance for us to explore, to experience citizen science by ourselves, to become a citizen scientist once you use these apps, iNaturalist. This is one experience, one apps that we can train ourselves to be like citizen scientist. What is citizen scientist? It's all about sesiapa sahaja yang join program ataupun aktiviti dalam citizen science dalam bahasa Melayu ialah sains masyarakat yang kita tak ada background sains, kitalah citizen scientistnya. Kitalah saintis masyarakat dalam bahasa Melayunya. Kitalah. Okey, kalau dekat Terengganu dah ada pasal penyu. Sea turtle conservation. Lost word lah. Okey, dekat UMT ada. Tapi dia tak claim lah sebab dia open to volunteer. But the data is already. Yang kutip data tu saya sendiri, saya pernah join jadi volunteer. Saya kutip data untuk tengok penyu-penyu tu bertelur kat mana, apa dia buat, berapa lama, berapa banyak telur. Kalau bertelur tempat yang salah, kena kutip telur tu buat tempat lain. Yes, I do that. Saya, library science, librarian, UiTM. Tak ada background pasal penyu pun. But we managed to do it. That's what we call citizen science because that's what we call I am a citizen scientist because I already did that something that I have no background in that field, but I did it. So now, we would like to do iNaturalist. Everyone, I believe that all of you already installed the iNaturalist, right? Have you? Yasmin, my phone, please. Thank you, sorry. Lupa dah. Okay, kalau dah install, mudah saja. Okey, saya bukan marah orang, saya memang bercakap semangat tuan-tuan, cik puan, saya minta maaf kalau rasa macam kena marah aku datang sini. Saya minta maaf, saya memang cakap semangat sikit. Suara saya tak ada ni, bukan sebab saya marah, saya memang tak ada suara. Hari panas, tak ada suara. Ya, minta maaf. Alright, okay. Okay, so this is example of iNaturalist project. First, this is from University Malaya. The project name is Urban Biodiversity Challenge. Okay, simple sahaja projeknya. Tangkap gambar and then upload at the iNaturalist. There is in these apps, it will help us to identify that species. It might be that we need to choose which one is the correct one, but this app will have a suggestion for us to choose. Macam tu. Okay, so this is the example of it. Next is, tak apalah. Saya tekanlah ya. This is our project. Khazanah Alam Campus Challenge, UiTM Pahang Campus Jengka. We did it last year. We invited Mr. Afan collaborate with University Malaya Sustainability Development Center. Afan is one of the co-founder for Sekitar Kita and also Water Warriors. This team did citizen science in University Malaya. Okay, so we invited and collab with them to teach us about how you use iNaturalist. Okay, ni yang kita dah buat lah. Dan ada lagi satu yang dah buat juga, library. This is organised by library, sorry. This is organised by University Malaya without library. This is organised by library and collaborate with others. This is also organised by library, collaborate with others faculty. So like Vivienne said, we don't have that subject expert in that field, we can collaborate. Alright? So the name of USM is USM Campus Nature Challenge. Okay, so saya kira settle lah ya this one. Dah ya? Okay, dah. Ni satu step dah. Sign up dah. Saya dah download, you kena sign up. Kalau belum sign up dulu. Boleh pakai Gmail terus. Saya nak tanya lah ya, sorry, ada yang pakai Huawei tak? Saya sebenarnya minta maaf tuan ya. Huawei memang tak boleh buat apa-apa. Kerana masalah politik antara China dan US. Kita tak boleh nak tolong. Dia tak ada. Dulu ada tau, last year boleh. Last year kami buat, Huawei boleh lagi. Dia adalah cara nak buat. This year kami tengok tak ada dah. Dia block terus. Minta maaf lah sangat. Maka begitulah limitation antara mereka di luar kawalan saya. Saya hanya minta mungkin tuan boleh kena tengok orang kawan punya lah ya. Minta maaf. Okey, sebaik seorang je. Okey, dah sign up dah. Tak boleh, ada masalah ke? Ada masalah, Cik Husna boleh bantu? Make sure sign up sebab lepas ni 10 minit saya akan bagi, kita akan terus buat kat luar. Ada siapa ada masalah nak sign up? Kalau boleh dah, okey. Kalau dah, okey. Macam mana Allah? Okey, tak nampak ya. Macam mana nak tangkap gambar nanti kan? Okey, kalau tuan-tuan tengok, kalau Android dia ada tak ada. Dia ada lambang plus tu kat situ. Tanda tambah kalau Android. Kalau kita Apple, dekat tengah-tengah observe ada gambar kamera. Dia letak perkataan, sekejap tengok sikit, lupa dah. Observe. Dekat situ boleh tekan observe and then boleh tangkap gambar terus. Tekan, klik kat situ lah. Kalau iPhone. Kalau Android, tekan yang plus tu. Okey? Boleh? Tapi sebelum tu tak apa. Sebab kita tak ada apa nak tangkap pun. Okey. Next is, okey. Tuan-tuan dan cik puan, kalau keluar macam ni kalau keluar, allow iNaturalist to access this device location, yes. Allow. Allow iNaturalist to take picture and record video, allow. Allow iNaturalist to access photo and media on your device, allow. Kenapa allow? Sebab iNaturalist ni kita boleh run dengan dua cara. Satu cara directly, dia buka apps, tekan kat observe, tekan plus, terus tangkap gambar, upload directly. Satu. Cara yang kedua, kita tangkap gambar pakai kamera dulu. Tangkap, lepas tu baru kita nak upload. Pun boleh. Pun boleh, tak ada masalah. Kalau macam tu Puan Farah, bolehlah saya tangkap gambar kat rumah saya. Tapi saya cakap projek KIA. Kita rasa macam boleh, sebenarnya tak boleh. Sebab kita dah map. For that project, ada satu projek yang kita nak masuk lagi. Kita dah map dah kawasan itu sahaja yang boleh dia detect gambar dalam projek tu. Tu yang bestnya. Okay. Alright. Okay. This one. Okay, ni contohlah gambar yang, sekejap ya. Okay. Gambar yang nak tangkap macam mana. Okay, cadangan saya, kalau jumpa satu contohlah, macam kami semalam dekat Rejengke, kami masuk hutan. So we found a tongkat Ali. Tongkat Ali, they said it's a tongkat Ali. So nak nampakkan itu ada tongkat Ali, mungkin kita kena ambil angle sini satu. Angle sini satu, angle sini satu. Dia boleh masuk 3 gambar. So different angle, you will gain more specific species about that plant or that box. So we can take quite of the pelbagai angle, sudut. Okay. Alright. So dah automatic, yang risau date, time, location, automatic. Kalau yang ditanam, captivated, kalau contohlah landscape punya bunga kan. So kita tekan yes. Okay. Sebab itu yang dah ditanam. Kalau masuk hutan lain lah. Okay. So, tak sure, I am not sure what is species is all about. You just click what did you see, right? What did you see? What did you see? Jangan lupa lah. What did you see? I find out second is what did you see. Lepas tu nanti dia akan keluar cadangan. It will appear a lot of suggestion. So, tengok yang paling atas sekali biasanya yang itulah. Tekan tu, klik and then that's it. Share, that's it. Tapi puan, saya hentam je ni puan. Saya tak tahu pun. Tak apa, if you hentam, if you are not really sure about that species and you just pick one of the suggestion, if you say that, this is not valid, this is invalid, there is another identifier, we identify and correct it. Dalam iNaturalist ni ada ramai tau orang-orang yang memang passionate tentang nature. So dia akan tengok, gambar ni salah ni. So dia akan identify that one. Dia akan bagi tahulah kena tukar. Ni bukan paku pakis, ini pokok mangga contoh. So kita tukarlah. Jauh sangat beza paku pakis, pokok mangga. Takkan, tak kena ya. Alright, okay. Kalau tak pasti, dekat cadangan yang dia bagi tu kan, suggestion tu, kita tekan dekat yang tanda I tu. Dia akan keluarkan adakah ini yang kita maksudkan untuk kita tengok. Dia akan bantu kita, dia akan latih kita juga. Alright, macam tu Okay, so now join this project. Dah join belum? Untuk Kuantan, type, you go to project. Okay, and then dia ada dekat atas. Alah, tengok handphone lagi satu macam. Bukan, Android keluar macam mana? Yelah, dia join featured nearby. You cari dekat atas tu, project, dekat atas tu macam ada hantar search kan. You type, Allah, nurturing, tu yang tu. Nurturing, thank you. Nurturing Citizen Science. Tajuk kita Nurturing Citizen Science at IIUM Kuantan. Type dulu. Lepas tu klik join. Okay, yang ni saya kena tengok. I need to look around because I'm worried that yesterday there was a problem to join. Terus now you look here. Let me see. Yeah, thank you, join. Dah, you join. Already join? Dah, boleh? Oh, okay. Ni tim PPAP puan daripada mana? UMP. Alright, dah? Alright, ada masalah tak? Tak jumpa ke apa ke? Bagi tahulah ya. Tak apa, kami boleh bantu. Okay. So, masa berlalu. Okay. Dah join? Dah ke? Okay, kalau Android, dah join tu, nak cari kat mana? Mana tempat nak tangkap gambar? Tekan balik anak panah tepi tu. Lepas tu nampak tak kat tepi tu ada macam line 3 tu kan? Tekan kat situ, dia keluar nama kita, explore, project, guide, activity, message, bla bla bla. Bawah tu baru ada new observation. Itulah tempatnya untuk tangkap gambar. Tak apa, explore je. It's okay. Take your time. Yeah. Lagi satu quick tip Okay, are we good now? Alright, okay, quick tip. Make sure that allow your location while we are doing this activity after this. So GPS kena on lah. Senang betul kan? GPS location kena on sebab nanti dia akan automatic detected. Tangkap gambar kat UIA ni, masuk dekat tempat projek kita. Okay. This is what I said just now. The quick tip for me, take a pictures from different angle. Okay. Box ke, apa ke, plants. Okay, take a picture before it runs. That's why my suggestion is you are using your camera instead of you are taking a picture by the apps. And then make it focus. Use macro lens. Better. Okay. Use a normal camera. Yes. Upload later. You can choose upload in the apps. Okay. Satu observation, jangan tangkap gambar beza-beza. Contoh, tangkap gambar bunga raya. Lepas tu tangkap gambar bunga mawar pula. Tangkap gambar ni dalam tempat yang sama, tak boleh. Satu observation, bunga raya, angle lain bunga raya, angle lain bunga raya. Tak apa, boleh. Okay, next picture, new observation. Okay, next, this one. Open your, what we call it, your location, and then no worries, it's still private. Please terlalu excited. Aku nak tengok lah kawan aku ni spesies apa dalam iNaturalist. Tangkap gambar dia je lah. Dia spesies manusia jangan buat kelakar. Ni selalu kita rasa macam seronok kan. Tapi tak payahlah untuk projek kali ni tak apa. Okay, where can biodiversity be found? It's anywhere, actually everywhere. So nearest our campus is also have. Okay, untuk pengetahuan juga, kita punya iNaturalist ni boleh tengok dekat website. Same email, same username, same password, you boleh tengok dekat website. Nanti kita tengok Dah tangkap nanti, kita akan tengok siapa yang paling banyak tangkap gambar. Okay, I would like to credit these sources from sekitar kita. Thank you so much sekitar kita. And that's all. Alright, okay, saya akan bagi masa 10 minit sahaja. 10 ke 15 minit. Lepas tu kita rehat sekali. So dalam 12.20 masuk balik. Boleh? Nak tangkap gambar kat mana Puan Farah? Dekat mana? Taman tepi ni ada. Dekat luar library pun boleh. So 20 minit terpulang lah. Tuan-tuan nak tengok 10 minit dulu tangkap gambar. Lepas tu rehat, it's up to you. Okay, lepas 20 minit untuk tangkap gambar dan nak pergi toilet, washroom and everything, come back 12.20 untuk kita tengok, recap sekejap. Tengok apa yang dah tangkap tadi sebab dia akan automatik masuk dalam projek Kita tengok, lepas tu kita akan recap and then habislah untuk program ni. Okay, ada soalan? Ada soalan? We are good now? Alright, okay. So, saya jemput tuan-tuan dan cik puan semua untuk merasai menjadi citizen scientist, saintis masyarakat. Okey, boleh bergerak sekarang. Terima kasih semua. Jumpa 12.20. nak panggil Adib Syahmi. Siapa Adib Syahmi? Oh, habislah. Nak minta dia betulkan spesies dia ni sikit. Sebut nama Aziza. Betulkan spesies anda. Wah, siapa? Hafiz Latif. Hafiz eh? Wah, Hafiz paling banyak. Menang. Menang. Siapa adik? Adik Syami siapa? Mana adik? Adik. Wah, banyaklah. Bukan, tapi tak apa. So how is it? Is it interesting? How is it, guys? It's okay, everyone? Alright, okay. So we would like to recap our session for practical session. Okay, if you can see, iNaturalist also can be searched or accessed by website, web page. Okay, so this is how it looks like when you are opening it in website. Okay, so same concept. Log in with your password. Your username, email, and also your password. Make sure you not forget your password. Okay. Alright. Okay. Let me see. I need to refresh this one. Sebab tadi dah 80 lebih dah observation. 95 dah. Okay. Vivienne, please add on if I. Alright. Okay. So for what we did for 10 minutes plus 50 minutes, 10 to 50 minutes, we got 39 species. Tepuk sikit. We have 95 observation. What is the meaning of observation? The picture they uploaded. You are observed that. Alright, we have 95 observation, but being identified is 39 species, 1 identifier, 24 observer. It means that 24 individu that upload in this project. Okay, observer. Okay. Kalau nak buat program ni dekat library ataupun mana-mana, macam kami buat, kami hanya bagi sijil pada yang observe je. Contoh kan, dalam dewan ni ada 50 orang, yang keluar tangkap gambar tadi ramai 50. Tapi yang upload ni 24 je. 24 yang kami bagi sijil. Kalau program kami lah. Sebab syarat kita nak bagi you lalu benda ni. You experience this one. Macam tu lah. This is sharing pengalaman kami je. Handle macam mana dalam satu lagi kita nak minta tolonglah upload macam tu lah sebenarnya. Okay, so as we can see here, we have Hafiz Latif as the most observation. Thank you Hafiz. And we have Fiona. Yeah. Sub 912. Siapa Sub? Oh, Kak Sabah. Sapan Sabah dia. Puan Maria, is it you? You from PPAP. Okay, and Aziza and Umi Nadia also from Library IITM Pahang. Most species from Puan Maria from PPAP. Wah. Ahmad Musab Basri. Good job. Okay, we have Umi Nadia, Fiona. Okay, ni Leman, Cik Sulaiman, and Nur Farina. Thank you so much. Alright, okay. So what we do next? Okay, first of all, please make sure like Adik Syami just now, if you can see this one. Why I announced his name because of I really need his help to click and identify this species. You just look at what you see, and then because we cannot leave the species unknown, it's difficult for others to help us to identify this species. So letak dulu mana-mana yang dicadangkan tu, pilih satu. What did you see tu, tekan, pilih dulu and then letak dulu. Nanti akan ada orang betulkan. Tapi kalau boleh, kita janganlah, biarlah ada orang betulkan, buat salah lah, tak boleh lah. Sebab dekat what did you see tu, dia akan bagi pilihan dan dia ada letak I dekat situ. Information untuk kita baca. Tengok. Saya suka analysis ni sebab nak tak nak kan, dia ajar kita baca dan jangan malas. Kita kena create a sense, curiosity tu kan. So you kena explore lah. This is how citizen science work. You self-learning, you want to do what you want to do. Walaupun permulaannya mungkin paksaan, explore sahaja. But it's okay. Sekarang masyarakat Malaysia dah lah kurang minat sains kan. So ni salah satulah perkara yang boleh kita buat. Okay, next is I would like to invite Vivienne to recap about what's next. When we do this one, what we can do with this data. What's next? Just a simple one, recap only. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so when you have all these data collected in iNaturalist, there's a few things you can do. Now, you can filter them based on the species, or you can filter them based on the existence status in terms of, are they threatened? Are they introduced species, meaning that they're invasive or they're being brought in from another place? That is the few of the features that we use, few of the way that when we pull the data, we look into what exactly we're looking for. So I'm going to quickly show you how you can do that. And I also want to mention to you, when you go out and collecting data, you don't have to only photograph live animals, okay? It could be, or live plants. You can photograph a dead leaf that's on the floor. You can photograph scats from animals. Okay, like hopefully not all dog poop, but maybe scats from different, from monkeys or things, different things, which you might not know whether there's scats from what type of animal. However, when you photograph it, you put it on iNaturalist, and you can just randomly guess, or you can just say it's some sort of animal scats. The experts, the subject matter expert, naturalists, hobbyists, anyone who's on iNaturalist community online, in that virtual community, they will help you identify which animal actually left that scat behind. So the whole point is you're actually photographing evidence of life. You're not photographing, it does not have to be living organism, like something that has to be alive. So I just want to make sure you have that information. Also, you might notice there's a lot of bird chirping in the woods in some area, but you don't see them. However, you found a couple of their feathers on the ground. You can photograph the feathers too. So again, these are evidence of life. So keep that in mind. So when you join a project, you might wonder, well, so do I have to join a project in order to make sure my data gets counted for that project? The short answer is no. The way iNaturalist work is that as long as your photo is taken within that geographic location, as a researcher, when I comb through the data, any data that's being photographed in that location, I can comb them out. So the only reason you're joining the project is for two reasons. One is it makes it easier for the researchers because they have a batch of data that's already specifically based on, based on what the geographic limitations they set, the boundaries. Another reason is that you can have a way to communicate directly with participants who are interested in your project. So, for example, in this project here, there is a project journal here. I don't know if you could see it, but where my hands is, that's project journal. That's a feature that's added by iNaturalist as a way for you to either make an announcement or share updates related to the project with your project participants, people who actually took the time to click that button and say they want to join your project. However, for people who did not click that button, they won't see your journal entry unless they're specifically looking for them. Or, so that's the one key difference between people who actually join project or not. So we typically want them to join just because it makes it easier. We can communicate with them. You know, when we have next year's, we're doing another year of BioBlitz, I can send a blast announcement through this journal, and then they can all see it and they can join again next year. So it has a marketing purpose to it as well. Going down 1 second. I'm a mouse person, I'm not a touchpad person. So over here you have very generic results. That shows you observation, species, identifiers, observers, and then you can go to stats. Okay? So this gives you a little bit more information in terms of what type of species has been photographed or been shared. Okay, so you have in different class names, different, you know, the mammals, birds and stuff, or reptiles. So if you want to share something like that, you can. Even as a librarian who doesn't have biology or, you know, not studying animals, and for instance, you can, or entomologists, these are the type of information people would be interested in knowing, so you can share that. Did you have a chance to talk about the difference between research grade, casual? Okay. So when you submit an observation, you wonder, is it right away all the researchers going to see my observation? And also, what if my identification is wrong? So when you submit that observation, initially it's being aligned or being matched based on the AI algorithm that's built in there. So it's based on all the data they have collected globally, like billions of them, and then they match the closest pattern to it, and then they suggest these are possibly the species that you have photographed. But it's not 100% correct, so that's why the status would say it need ID. So someone as an identifier who may be familiar with this particular species, when they see it, they will say, oh, I know this one, that's an iceberg rose, for instance. So they will go ahead and add that to your profile, and then you're gonna get a message that someone was looking at your thing and they had an identification, and then you can go in and match that. You know, you can say you agree with it or not. How do you know if you agree to something that's correct? When they suggest a species, it also comes with an explanation and additional images to tell you why it looks the same. So you can look into that and say, well, I think this person might be right, so I'm gonna agree. Now, if you have 3 or 4 people from the community, from the iNaturalist community suggesting the same thing, then this particular photo you shared would moved from casual, from NEID to casual to research grade. Researchers and scientists will only see them when they become research guide, when they become research grade, okay? Because that's when they actually add value, actually have the value to the research. I mean, if they want, they can collect into NEID photos stuff too. They can look through that as well if they want to, but typically they don't. And the reason is, Farah was mentioned, why you don't leave the species unknown is because in general, there's tons of unknown photos, and most naturalists or hobbyists, when they want to help identify, they probably go into specific categories first. So if you're photographing fungi, you just choose the generic, just the term fungi. Or if you're choosing something, you're photographing plants, flowers, stuff, just choose plants. If it's animal, organism, bugs, whatever, just use the generic term. At least it's under certain categories, so people like entomologists, they're looking in insects, they will click insect and look through them and see if they find something interesting and help identify, okay? Now, I want to share something here. I'm going to take you guys to our project, okay? So when you go into a project, usually when we set up the project, we tend to want to set up the geographic boundaries because you're probably looking into a specific area that you want to see the biodiversity in that particular area. So that makes it easier when you have your own project. You can just, when you go into your project, like you do the search, it automatically it limits your search within that geographic locations. That's another reason why you do want to set up a project as a project developer or someone who's doing research specifically in, let's say, Kuantan area, for instance. Okay, so that way when you pull, your initial stack of data that you're pulling is already within this pool. And then beyond, if you're looking for something that's beyond this, then you can then tap into the generic pool, okay, which is a lot of data combing, a lot of more extensive time that you need to put on. So right here, I'm going to show you the fountain grass. Why am I highlighting fountain grass? So I'm going to choose one and show you. In iNaturalist, because of all the data they collected, they were able to identify whether the species you have is, you photograph or observe, is either threatened, endangered, introduced, or invasive, or endemic. So when you see some, in this case, fountain grass, we actually have Librarian thought, these plants are amazing, they're so pretty. So they cut them, put them in the vases, and then they have it as a decor in their house. They're pretty. However, they exacerbate wildfires. These are great fuels for wildfires. So what we found out is when people start photographing these all around the city of Los Angeles, based on the locations that they share, we found out where they're most highly populated. So LA Sanitation Environment were able to put a special project to go out and weed and do a weeding project to eradicate that particular plant from that area. So if there's wildfire broke out, it wouldn't have additional fuel to burn them. So how do you know? So like whenever you see like a special, like right here, there you see that little exclamation with pink surrounding like the little marker. If you tap them, it would tell you this is an introduced species into Los Angeles. If you see something different, like I think in the red one, it would tell you it's a threatened species. Things like that. So you get additional information about different types of species that you found. That's also how people found out that you have some species that actually, they were probably native in your area, but they haven't been seen because they're threatened. So these are all additional information that you can pull from combing through the data, the photos that are coming in from people who participated. This is on the website only. Actually, no, you can see them on the app too. So if you go into the project, you can do filter as well. As long as you're in the project, you can also do the filtering that way. But it's definitely much, much easier when you do it on the website. Yeah, it's a lot easier to see. And then right here, you can see the map, the satellite map and everything here. You see all the red markings. These are all basically people have seen the fountain grass in that area. All the observations that's done. Now going further down, if you know as an identifier, you have additional information, additional knowledge about this particular species, you can add them here. So for example, it's a plant phenology, you can choose the value, you can add additional stuff, okay? Was it, the fountain grass you found, was it a budding, was it already flowering? You can add more information to it, okay? Or you don't see any flowering. Do you know the sex of the plant? So different species, plants, they also have different sexes. It could be male or female. You can add that to it. You can basically add additional information to help researchers to make sure that they get this piece of information. All right? Going back. And there's another thing I wanted to add. I think it's under account setting. Let's see if I was right. So recently, iNaturalist added a new feature that allows you to display the species name in 3 different languages. So Malay is actually one of them. And so for me, for this purpose, when I do I select English, Malay, and Chinese. So when it displays under my profile, for that fountain grass, it would display in that 3 languages. However, there's not enough translation for species in Malay at this point. So I will highly recommend you all who speak Malay, who use this app, if you can also be part of that volunteer group to help them adding that language to the species as the common names in Malay. So you can do that as well. You can be the help that they need. Okay, and I'm trying to figure, I think it was under maybe profile that you can add that languages. Okay, and another thing I want to add is, again, you can use the filter feature. This is where, again, if I'm specifically interested in looking for introduced species, you can just click introduce. If you want to see what are the most popular species that's being spotted for that particular project in those areas, I can choose popular. Anything that has sound, meaning it was a sound recording rather than just a photograph. It could be your observation alone. Captive and wild. So what we just did out here, most of you probably have photographed what we call the captive plants, captive species, because those are the plants that's being planted by maybe the gardeners in the library, I mean in the building, on the campus. But in general, what we really want to look for is wildlife, wild species. So anything, when I was out there photographing, I wasn't photographing the plants that are already in the planters. I was actually looking for the weed, the wildflowers that was growing on the side of it. Those are the one that's very valuable to know, because that helps people to know that what sort of wild plants, wildlife that would, the pollens, how far they could carry to be seeded here. So those are the things that you want to focus on. And you definitely want to avoid photographing house pets like cat, dog, or anyone who have those as pets. You don't want to photograph those because it does not tell us why they're here. We already know they're here because you bought them. We already know they're here because you're raising them here. We're trying to look for the wild ones. We want to know their migratory patterns, how they change that. So that's why you want to focus on the wild ones. In general, most of the BioBlitz or the CD Nature Challenges, things like that, they're looking for wildlife rather than the captive ones. You can look as a researcher, I probably won't be interested in the research grade, so I will click on research grade. I will click on, and some of them they might say, oh, I want to help identify, so I'm looking for the one that needs ID. So I'm going to go into the one that says needs ID and try to help identify. I personally always interested in finding out if there is any threatened species that were found in our community, so I will tap that, and then it would tell me whether or not we have that. So I'm going to do that right now. So these are the ones that are actually threatened species in the city of Los Angeles. So I can see where people found them, who found them, and how they look like. Okay? And as a librarian, I'm not doing research, so I probably don't need all these information. But another information we always share is what are some of the most observed threatened species in our community. And people want to know that. Because that, again, for me, I was like, oh, that means LA is a great place for these animals to thrive. And I can actually brag about it. I learned about it, so I can share that with people. And let me see here. And you can also look at the map form, so let's do the map. Now, what's valuable about this map is you can zoom in really closely and find out if there's any what we call the Y pixels. Y pixels means that there's never any observation data being collected. So if you happen to live in that area and you zoom it in, you're like, oh, I'm only like a street away from that. I'm gonna go there and check it out, see if there's any wild species, wild plants out there. You just go there, snap a few photos, bring it back in. You can change that pixel from white to different shades of orange in this case. So you're actually helping researchers to get more data, especially in the area that never had a data before, have any data being captured. That's very important and very valuable. we do have people asking about like, well, I don't want people to know where I live, but I photograph the wildlife in my backyard, and they're gonna know where I live. The truth is nobody know where you live. You could be visiting your friend's house, right? So some people, because of that reason, some people say, I don't want to turn on my location finder or the GPS feature on my phone. Sure, you can turn that off, but without that, basically researchers are missing one of the most important piece of information, which is the geotag. Where did you find that animal? Where did you find that insect? Where did you find that rare bug that was never seen anywhere else? And you know, so if you want to participate, I highly recommend that you keep the location finder on. And also that if you really don't want people to know, you can move the toggle a little bit, but don't move it like 10 miles away or 10 kilometers away that it does not really give the accurate enough of precision for researchers to know where it was found. Don't move it way too far, just tiny bit, okay? I think that is all I have to add. Try to think of anything else that would be useful. Oh, if you're wondering what sort of species were found in Kuantan, for instance, you can just do here, do Kuantan. Right? I actually did this, and I was fascinated by it, to be honest. So here's the map of Kuantan, right? And I'm going to tap go. Let's see what we see. Is it running? Oh, let's try Pahang then. I don't see anything here specific. That means in this area we don't have that many yet. So let's try Pahang. Make it bigger. I know why. I need to take out the written species. Why is it not moving? Oh, because I'm in the project. All right, let's try it again. Let's go to explore. All right, there. Let's do DNA. Maybe this will work. There we go. So this is Kuantan alone. There is 1,950 observations being submitted. You can see here, it's very, very skewed towards one area, right? So as a researcher, I'm going to look at this and say, why only people over there, that area does observation? So now that ties into the social behavioral aspect of the research. Who are the one that's contributing to this data, right? So you start thinking in that pattern. Now, as a general librarian, I'm like, why are they doing this close to my library? That's the way I was thinking. So, you know, and then how do I get people who haven't, you know, the area never had any observation, how do I get people to do observation there? Those are the typical questions that comes to my mind. Okay, so now I pull some of these out. So now it says we have 1958 observation, 895 species being identified, and then we have only 561 identifier. These are 561 people who have tried to identify your 1958 observations. And we have over 200 observers who, well, not over, but exactly 200 observers who submit the total of 1958 observations. So now I'm curious, what did they find? So I'm going to go to filters. And I'm going to see if they find any introduced species. So there you go. 62 of the observations and 40 species in there, they were introduced. They were not native here. Okay? Now you're wondering, well, how do they look like? You can go to the grids. These are non-native species. Okay? And apparently someone photographed somebody's dog. Right? So it's very interesting when you come through things like these. You're like, what do people, look at this. There's a crow eating some dead animals. Right? These are some really interesting stuff, and that makes you wonder what else they found, you know? And again, let's say if I go in here, you see there's another exclamation with a pink, right? So you click on that, it will tell you this is an introduced species. However, I don't know if this is an introduced species, if this the crow or is that a mouse? I can't even tell what it is, okay? So this also tells you something. When you photograph a species, try to limit to one species. Because when you have two, the AI isn't sure what they're identifying, so you don't really know what they're identifying. I mean, unless you know the actual official name of it. So right here, we know it's house crow because they put a common name. But I'm personally actually interested in that dead animal that it's eating, so it's not going to give me that information, correct? All right, so let's go back to filtering. 5 minutes? Okay. One last one. Like I said, I'm always curious about the endangered species or threatened species, so I'm going to tap that. And we're going to go. And then so now here you see 33 species that were identified, they were endangered or threatened. And you see the monkey, the dusky leaf monkey. And you see right here, it's red, it says EN. This is actually an endangered species that's on the IUCN red list. So you're spotting them around here, that tells you have a quality habitat for them to continue surviving here. They have a shelter, they have food, they have enough prey for them to survive. However, you might think, well, that's because they were in my backyard eating my garbage. It could be. But that means you're providing them that quality habitat so they continue to populate here. And someday, if you start not seeing them here, that means there's more other reasons that they're not here anymore. Could be fragmentation of the land. Their habitats could be the change of the land cover. There's even more human dwelling out here than the forest for them to hide. So these are all something for you to consider, for you to think about. All right, so more monkeys, lots of monkeys. This is great. Yeah, we have something interesting here. That's a smooth coated otter. How many of you have actually seen this in your life? All right, we have 2 from the campus. But of all of you, only 2. Near your house, 3 people. Anybody else? 4, 5, 6. Anyone else? Anyone? 7? Anyone else? 8? All right, maybe 8, 9, let's say 10. Of all of you here, only 10 have seen this alive. So that tells you more of us need to go out there to see if we see them around our neighborhood. It will help you to be more observant. Okay? So, and here, if you scroll down more, they will tell you who are the people that have identified this species. And if you're interested in communicating with them, for example, you're like, I'm doing research related to this, I want to know more about it. You can actually collect and then, connect it with these identifiers, say, hey, where did you see this? Can you share more with me about the information? They will be able to tell you. You can communicate them through iNaturalist. Okay, so that's another way you can build that connection with other people, other observers who is within this community. All right? Okay, so last but not least, I'm going to share this with you, the copyright and more. You will see some of the people might be professional photographers. They might be conservation photographers that they do take extra interest, pride in providing in their copyrights. So not all the photos here are shareables. So some of the photos that we can see them here, but I cannot pull them out and use it for my presentation. I will have to ask them for permission. So you will have to email them, text them, message them, and let them know I'm using this for educational purpose, would it be okay? But in general, if you see this CC by NC, that means it's for non-commercial use. You would be able to use them, but you do want to give them credit. So at the bottom, you want to make sure you put a little copyright sign or something that said photo by this person. You can use their user ID or their actual name. Okay, so I just want to bring that to you, especially if you're doing a presentation internationally. This is really important, okay? Because people's gonna ask you, did you get a permission from that person to share this photo? All right? So that's about it. Thank you so much. I'm serious. I'm gonna leave that to you. It's okay. It just drives me crazy.
Okay, thank you very much to Puan Farah and also to Vivienne. With the end of our practical session today comes the end of our program. We would like to thank all the participants for taking the time to attend our program, and also we appreciate your continued support for the library. Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Ms. Vivienne Byrd, for her time and expertise. I'm sure we have all benefited from today's session, inshallah. Before we take our leave for lunch, I would like to apologize for any mistakes that we've made throughout the program, and I would also like to thank all the library staff and Information and Technology Division staff for their hard work and support in making today's program a success. So once again, thank you all for your time and attention. We hope you'll have a wonderful day ahead. Yes. Okay, another thing for all participants. If you want to get the e-certificate for today's program, you have to scan the QR codes at the sides of the, and Brother Faisal, I think, is sharing the QR codes. Once you scan it and fill in the evaluation form, then you will get the e-certificate from PPM. And another reminder to please read the evaluation form questions carefully, because there is going to be a question about before you went to the program and after you went to the program. Okay, so thank you very much. So let us end the program with the recitation of Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-Asr. Okay, with that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah, wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And everyone is invited for lunch at the Learning Commons to the right of the auditorium. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.